Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Nisley.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a very special guest this evening. A Talking Sock has joined the podcast. How's it going, A Talking Sock?
I'm all right. That's, for all of you who aren't familiar, that's my name and what I am. So,
Yeah. If only things were that simple, where things just were called what they are. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And speaking of simple, you're here to talk about a very simple game, but complex, ARMS. We know
it's a lot more complex than you'd think.
Yeah.
What a tease for the main topic. I love it. Yeah, you're here to talk about ARMS as a title and talk about some of the mechanics, and that'll be our main segment for today. We got a bunch of news that hit this weekend. We're like a couple weeks or a week away from E3. I don't know what time it is anymore. Yeah. And in the news, we're going to talk all about all of the Pokémon remakes got announced, dates for Arceus, as well as some official Smash esports coming to high schools across the country. We also have a Sonic Central Sega presentation, the State of Play, and a bunch more. And I regret to say this, but the Nintendo Switch Pro.
Yeah. We got lots of Switch Pro rumors to go over. Yeah, much to Matt's chagrin.
I know. Before we get started, what's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
Doing okay? Yeah, doing all right. Hanging in there. Having a pretty decent long weekend. We're recording this on Memorial Day, so we're doing this a little bit early. It's nice to have a Monday off. How about you, A Talking Sock? How's your YouTube channel treating you?
It's all right. The channel is fine. YouTube itself has been screwing me over. I primarily use the mobile version to like manage things and check my channel. What do you call it? YouTube Studio. And for whatever reason, it's some weird thing that's been affecting people randomly since 2020. I'm just in restricted mode and I can't get out of it.
Oh man.
So I can't view some of my comment sections. I can't view some of my playlists. And it seems completely arbitrary because it's not even like videos that are restricted, you know? Like people under 18 can view them, but I can't for whatever reason.
I'll talk to my friends at Google and see what I can what I can handle.
Domo arigato.
Yeah. But what about you, Patrick? How have you been?
I'm good. I wound down my job of my entire adult life, and I am into a year of exploration here.
Exciting.
So yeah, I'm working on rearranging my room. So is Matt, apparently.
So am I.
Yeah.
There'll be a new poster there next week.
Well, we've all got transitions going on, I guess.
Yeah.
So last episode we did was on Mii's for Miitopia's release. That was really fun, and we got some cool responses on the Discord. I got some people talking about Miitomo, especially Emma and Summer posted a bunch of her pics. Summer shared a bunch, and DCD mentioned that he's like my kid who has no patience for making Mii's or any character creation tools. And
I was farting around on my iPad today, and I found Miitomo was still installed.
Oh,
and
nice.
I tried to open it to see like if I could access any of the old pictures, and it's like, no, this thing is shut down. What are you doing?
What a shame.
I know, rip.
And on Facebook, in response to the podcast, Austin McGowan said that Breath of the Wild uses Mii's, and we completely forgot to talk about that. Thanks, Austin, for pointing that out. That was one of the big talking points that we missed. So we love to hear from people. So if you listen to this episode and you have something you want to share with us about ARMS, we love that. We love it when people review or subscribe on YouTube. And speaking of that, we've been aiming to get 250 subscribers to do something, and we have surpassed it.
We did it.
This is the week.
Woo!
We did it.
Hell yeah. So I gotta get to recording. I've been holding off on recording until we get it because I didn't want to get ahead of myself. But we'll be recording my versions of Zelda Pathways to the Future and Legend of Zelda Generations very soon. We'll be releasing those as special episodes. So thank you, everybody who subscribed to our YouTube channel to get us to this point.
David, will you read those verbatim? No edits?
Yeah, no. Even if there's grammatical errors, I will read them as they were, as the original artist intended. Maybe adding in some flourishes for dialogue or sound effects, but other than that, it'll be pretty bare bones. No, maybe not bare bones. I'll say it'll be the original artistic integrity will be intact.
When we get to 500 subs, we're gonna do the Snyder cut, and then 1,000 subs, it's gonna be the butthole cut.
That's right.
The what?
Yeah, if we get to 500,
for cats, I get it.
it'll be the director's cut. Well, I'll basically combine them into one story with cut content sprinkled throughout. It'll be essentially the same movie, but a totally different tone.
Will you do an alternate ending with like footage of a unicorn or whatever?
That's 1,000. That's 1,000 subs.
Yeah.
What was that? Blade Runner got ruined that way.
Yeah, totally. We'll get if we get to 10,000 subs, we'll get Harrison Ford to record voiceover to narrate the entire
Righteous.
thing. Yeah.
All right, y'all. So we're going to talk about all the gaming news and rumors. There were a bunch of presentations and a bunch of rumors going around and a bunch of news dropped. So like Matt mentioned, the Pokemon information came out this week. That is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes are coming out on November 19th of this year. That's not a huge surprise. I mean, we could have expected some Pokemon game in the fall. That's when they usually come out. And then Arceus or however you want to say it is coming out January 28th, 2022. And we got to see box art for both of these games. So what do y'all think? I know we aren't big Pokemon people here, actually. So I'm going to throw a talking suck. Do you like Pokemon?
I like Pokemon conceptually. I loved it when I was a kid.
Okay.
Right.
I haven't really played any since Sapphire on the Game Boy Advance.
Mhm.
Okay.
I thought I played Pokemon Go as well, but like only for a couple of years, which is longer than most people, but whatever.
Yeah, it's longer than me. Yeah.
Three guys and a puppet here that don't really play that much Pokemon trying to talk about Pokemon is what this is.
I mean, I think there's definitely some stuff you can extrapolate from this, right? I think first of all, a lot of the conversation that's been happening around Legends Arceus is that the game didn't look like super far along when it was shown off the first time. So I think a lot of people are kind of surprised that it's coming out so soon. And that's actually been some discourse online. I mean, anytime there's any sort of Pokemon release, there's weird controversy. The Pokemon community can be pretty annoying. But I think a lot of people are kind of concerned that it's like, was this game like in the oven for long enough? And I think to that, I think it's pretty safe to say that this game was probably in development for like quite a while before it was shown at that Pokemon presentation. And that doesn't also mean that what was actually shown at that presentation was like the most up-to-date build. So I don't think that they would be releasing it now. I don't feel like they feel pressured to release Legends Arceus super soon. There's they didn't really need to make this game at all. They could have just kept doing what they've been doing for forever. So I think that I have a feeling that this game will be pretty ready by the time it actually comes out. I don't know what you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I don't really have strong feelings one way or the other.
Yeah.
I would say for those who are holding out hope that maybe the visual fidelity will improve, like, because the trailer had some Pokemon floating around at like 20 frames a second or something.
Right.
I'm not hopeful.
Yeah.
I'd like to be hopeful, but the thing is, if you go to the Nintendo Switch eShop, they have a page for it already. And so, they use that first trailer and the screenshots from that trailer. So that's what they're advertising it as.
Right.
I'm sure E3 will bring some new footage and stuff that'll look great or fun or whatever, but what you saw is probably what you're going to get.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I think Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl coming out November, no big surprise. I mean, that's kind of the time when Nintendo would make these releases, I think. So I think it's kind of all normal there, but I'm just really excited to see them try something new with Arceus and very excited to see this game come out.
Yep.
Single player only, it says on the eShop as well.
I'll probably skip Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but I'm excited for Arceus. I'm just excited for a new Pokemon gameplay loop.
Yeah, for sure.
Same.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on then to Matthew's favorite topic without any new substance, really. The Switch Pro has been blowing up on the rumors section of insiders and people and that kind of thing. There was another Bloomberg article from the sources that are manufacturing this, where it stated that allegedly it's going to be announced ahead of E3 and released sometime in the fall, September, October-ish. And then Jason Schreier, the journalist, also kind of backed that up, who writes for Bloomberg now, I think. So, but it wasn't his article. But and then there was also a listing on Amazon Mexico, which has leaked a few things in the past as well. So it kind of all seemed like it was happening, and especially on, I think, what was this, Friday, May 28th? Everybody online was like expecting it any moment. And then we're recording this on Memorial Day, so it's entirely possible in that short amount of time between us recording and releasing that we need a David from the future, or that or we'll just have
I love David from the future.
I'll give him your regards. Yeah. But I think rather than a David from the future segment, probably just like a whole quick little episode that we record.
I would hope so.
Yeah, we've been hyping this fucking thing up for since the Switch came out. So yeah. I mean, there's a lot more smoke there than even just what you said, Patrick. I mean, on top of that, there have been, leaks from, Chinese peripheral manufacturers that have been, leading to, say that the new dock should have 2 USB 3.0 ports and an Ethernet port. And there's been a lot of smoke around this right now. Definitely, it feels like it's inevitable at this point. And I think that it very well could be anytime between now that we're recording this and E3 coming out, that we'll definitely be hearing something official from Nintendo. I mean, I think, the smoke has gotten to the point where you can't help but inhale it.
Well, anybody want to mention anything on this? I mean, I feel like we've talked about it so much, we just kind of want to wait and see, and it does feel imminent. So, but is there anything else from anybody?
I would say that the Amazon Mexico listing, did it give a specific model name?
Yes, that's right. It did. I don't know that it's like a placeholder. It said new Nintendo Switch Pro, which doesn't sound like official. That sounds right?
That sounds like a placeholder name. You know what I mean? Like that happens in retail all the time, where they know they have something coming. They don't have an official name yet from whoever is the manufacturer is. So they approximate something, right? I mean, either way, this wasn't meant to go live. You know what I mean? So it's like probably was some placeholder that somebody accidentally pushed the button on or whatever. I do know a lot of the talk around it now having, it's saying that it's coming a lot sooner than later. A lot of the talk there from the leakers is that the reason for that is that third-party developers that have games currently in development for the Nintendo Switch Pro, or whatever they're going to be calling it. Let's hope it's Super Nintendo Switch. Whatever they're calling it.
I like Switch Extra.
So, it's very extra. Very extra. Yeah. But a lot of the idea as to why it's coming sooner than expected is, because they want to show off these games at E3. And E3 has been kind of slapdash this year, and people have been really just recently been getting their presentations together. And if they've got these things coming out for the Switch Pro, and it's going to be coming around and launch, like saying it could happen as early as September or October, then E3 is where you would want to show off that those projects are in development. So that's why a lot of people are thinking that before E3 happens, we'll be hearing something from Nintendo themselves. What do you guys think about that?
Let's see it. Let's see the damn thing.
Yeah.
Matt doesn't want to talk about it much more until we actually see it, which makes sense. We've talked about it so much. I think one of the big talking points I felt like I kept seeing on Twitter from multiple people was like, can't wait for this to be announced so we can stop talking about it.
Yeah.
But
Amen.
that's not the way it works.
Or at least start talking about it from a different angle. Right?
I think
it's like talking about what we know and like what the specs are and like all that kind of stuff, and not just speculating anymore.
Yeah.
Although if we can have one last bit of speculation, where are we falling on the name?
Yeah, you have my blessing.
Yeah. Well, Sock, what do you think this thing's going to be called? You said the Extra. Is that a realistic expectation, or is that just what you want?
I don't know, because I've been thinking in my head, sometimes I just like scroll through thesaurus.com, pro, super, new. A lot of people are doing that. Nobody said Extra so far as I know. And I'm like, that actually has a nice ring to it, because Nintendo Switch X is kind of like extreme. It's a new thing. but it's also just a little bit, ironically, it's a little bit extra, to use a colloquialism. But to just straight up say Switch Extra, because some people have also proposed Switch Plus, which is good, but we've been
Switch
hearing
Plus.
it so often that it's like it's starting to fall into the new and the other category.
Yeah.
Super Switch, I don't know if you go with that because it sounds almost like a whole new console,
Yeah. Sounds like they're just doing like a fan show of our show at that point.
I think Plus is, you're onto something. We have, Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, all the other
Plus is in right now.
Yeah. It feels like that's good.
It's a plus moment.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think like watch it. I'm just gonna say it right now. I bet you anything, because no one else is saying this. I got to get in one prediction that no one else is saying, just in the odd chance that it's right. I think it's just gonna be called the Switch 4K.
Whoa,
That's it. They're gonna call it the Nintendo Switch 4K, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, okay, that's what it's called."
That's the most post Iwata console name I can think of.
I'm telling you.
All right, should we move on?
Sure.
The National Purchase Diary, the NPD, we got some numbers from them. They always track sales of software and hardware in the United States, that is. And this first month, we're getting April numbers that year-on-year sales for video games as a whole have fallen in like over a year. So as we always talked about during the pandemic, video games were a big entertainment source for people who are in lockdown, and maybe that's starting to change a little bit as some people who adopted it maybe aren't buying as much. But also the Switch is still the best-selling hardware platform in the United States, which is another specific thing of interest to our podcast. Just killing it, continues to. We talk about it every time these numbers come out, and when we see the Switches on top. I mean, there's a lot of other little things. I don't know if y'all had a chance to look at this, if there's anything that you wanted to mention, but those are some of the big ones.
I don't know that the Switch will ever be dethroned as long as it's out.
Like in the next year or two or whatever.
Yeah. Or I mean, even like, at this point, it's like with the semiconductor shortage that's going on, and the number of Switch models that are out there when you can't even find a PS5 anywhere. I mean, PS5 is selling out, which is doing great for its numbers, but it's like the Switch is about to have 3 SKUs. You know what I mean? It's going to have the $300 version. The Bloomberg article said the Switch Pro should be more than that. There's a lot of speculation around $399, and then the $299 version of the Switch Lite. You've got all 3 of those to choose from when like trying to buy a console for somebody, like say for the holidays or whatever. And then if you can't find a fucking PlayStation or an Xbox, there's just like, it feels like there's the Switch cup overfloweth, and there's always going to be that niche for people that want to fill that handheld market as well. I just don't know that the Switch is ever going to be dethroned throughout this entire console generation, but I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think that's fair. I think it's going to remain on top for a while. It's doing really good numbers, as we've talked about.
At least the next couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that its sales are going to start decline now that we're like halfway through its life. I don't know how much a Pro is going to incentivize more pickups, because people picking up the Switch, they aren't there for the graphics. They're there for the games and for the convenience,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can't, because I feel like there's going to be, depending on when they actually launch this thing, there's going to be shortages. It's going to be hard to get them, right? And the scalpers are going to be all over the place. So you just got to ask yourself, if people want that, are they going to settle for the other model, this holiday season if they can't find one? And I think they probably would.
Well, sort of moving on, but just probably somewhat based on the success of the Switch, I think we have already seen hints of imitators coming and that kind of thing. And there was even rumors recently of Apple doing something, but I think those might have just been baseless rumors. But more substantiated rumors now are that Steam is working on a handheld console type gaming device. I think they even said they were doing something for consoles at some point. But there's also been references in Steam's code to a Steam Pal, which is presumably the name of this device. So this is probably coming. It sounds like there's a lot of, again, smoke here, but it's a lot of rumors. But what do y'all think about that? Do you think a handheld Steam device will be successful or be useful, or you know what I mean? Like, how will that work? Is also my curious. Like, will I be able to download anything to it? You know what I mean? Will it run Cyberpunk 2077?
Does anything run? I don't think PS4s run Cyberpunk 2077 right now. I don't think you can even get that game.
It's going to be called Steam Pal 4K.
Matt, what do you think about this? Would you get a handheld Steam device?
No.
Really?
Yeah, this isn't for me. I like playing my PC games on my computer. At least because all of it's like I play first-person shooter games, and I don't want to. I don't know. Right. I actually now I'm questioning myself because I love playing Splatoon on the Switch with motion controls.
Yeah.
But that game is specifically designed for motion controls. It'd be hard to play a game like Apex with motion controls or some twitchy first-person shooter on something like a Steam Pal. I don't know. It depends on the price point and depends the hardware. The hardware is the most curious thing is if it's going to have like PC components or is it going to be streaming only? It'll be like a controller streaming only and it connects to like a PC because it's the PAL part makes me think that it's like a
you can't leave your house and play your games, right? Like you can just
I mean, I think if we look at what Steam has been doing in the hardware, or excuse me, what Valve has been doing in the hardware sphere for the past 5 to 10 years at this point now, first of all, they obviously have been trying to move into the living room or on the TV with their like Steam big picture mode and Steam. You've got Steam Link, which is their kind of streaming stuff. But then also, they made, lots of deals with lots of hardware manufacturers and even did their own like little Steam box Linux boxes. Right. And they've really been trying to push Steam on Linux as like a closed kind of platform for their kind of, Steam box sort of stuff. So I think I don't think we're going to see streaming from this thing. I think that they know that if people want to buy a handheld, they're going to want to be able to take it places. Right. And I think that, being able to use the Switch like around the house when you're watching TV is a nice plus, but it's, all the commercials are rooftop parties, right? And fucking airports and airplanes and all that kind of shit. And I think that's a really good idea for people with like massive Steam libraries that have built them up over the years to be able to take those games like that to situations like that. I think that's a very good reason to make a box like this or a hybrid like this. My only concern would be that they would use Linux, which would then kind of hamstring what you could actually play on the go if games, only had Microsoft or even Apple ports at that point.
I think it's going to be hard. If depending on what this hardware looks like and what the specs are, the reason that consoles work so well is, developers are kind of put in a box. You can only create the game based on this tech, and it's the same tech everywhere. But if you're creating a PC game and it's coming to Steam Pal, then you have to optimize all of these games for Steam Pal. The first question is, what games are going to be optimized for Steam Pal? And the second thing is like, what's the tech going to be like in order to do those optimizations?
Right. And that comes back to your point on price. I think this thing is going to live or die by its price because we've seen lots of these handheld PC Switch likes that are out there right now. And there's a lot of them are coming out of China and whatever. And some of them are coming out of lots of different places, but they're all like $800 plus or like $1,000 or like the price of a gaming PC. And this thing just is not going to survive for that. So it's just, what are they able to pack into a small form factor for as cheap as possible? That's why Nintendo does so well, is they're always doing the cheapest shit, but innovating in other ways. Right. Yep. So we'll see how it shakes out. I'd love to get one of these. Cause like I said, I mean, I've got a big Steam library too. I used to be a big PC gamer, and a lot of the games I have in my Steam library could probably be played on a Switch at this point. You know what I mean? Like
if it's like a PC in the Switch, like form factor, and it lets you download emulators, I'm there day one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Anyway, I'm very, very excited to see where this goes. I think that this probably has a lot more potential than the Apple hybrid that had been kind of rumored before as well.
And And another company that might be trying to get in on gaming is Netflix. There's been some reports that they are considering expanding into some sort of gaming, whatever that means. I don't know if it would be a subscription thing or making their own games or what have you, but there's been reports that they've been approaching game industry people about joining Netflix in particular. I guess one could argue that maybe that's related to their sort of gamification of shows. Have y'all done it? Have y'all ever done any of these? We've talked about this on this show before,
no, like the Netflix games that are on the Switch.
Yeah, like no, there's that too. That's
like
right. That's a good point. That's what I was talking about.
Sure.
Because Netflix,
Jim Henson's Dark Crystal tactic game.
Well, yeah, so I guess that's true. They have had games come out on the Switch that they've been involved with, but they've also had shows where they take a gamification element, like Bandersnatch, or there was a Kimmy Schmidt episode where you can choose where you choose your own adventure, kind of a thing.
Kimmy Schmidt. I know that Black Mirror did that.
Yeah, Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and I tried to do it with my wife, and we did it, but we quit because it wasn't fun.
Well, it's like playing. It's like fucking when they like released Dragon's Lair on DVD, and it's like just not fun to play a game with a remote. You know what I mean? Like
the worst thing about it, in my opinion, and I haven't watched Bandersnatch, but I imagine it's the same from what I've read, is that like there are right and wrong choices. So like you make a choice and you're like, do you want Kimmy to ask this person to go with them or that person? And you're like, well, that person. And then you get like a short 1 minute scene where they're like, sorry, you can't, or something. And it's like, you go back to the other screen or whatever. And you're like, what?
No,
so it's like plumbers don't wear ties.
Right. Bandersnatch was a little bit more robust than that. I feel like there were multiple endings to that. Okay. I feel like it rewarded multiple playthroughs, like choosing different options. It's not just like, it's not like a faux choice. Like they actually really thought that one through. And then also they worked that whole aspect into the narrative of the story, right? Like it was kind of about a game. It was about a choose your own adventure game, right? So that worked a little bit better, but I'm interested to see what they do with this. If it's going to be just something that's bundled in. I mean, it's just fucking still funny to me that there's no Netflix on Switch yet. And they're like, we're getting into games. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I think this is an obvious choice. I think that Netflix is probably watching their subscribers drop and watching gaming numbers go up, and they just want to get in on it.
Yeah.
And they're doing lots of video game properties now,
That's right.
Castlevania was a huge hit for them.
True.
They're moving on to they've got The Witcher. They're doing, there's lots of video game property stuff coming out. So
the Legend of Zelda anime that you're gonna be in charge of.
Yeah, coming 2015, right?
Yeah, coming 2015. David from the past is directing that one. But yeah, I mean, there's like a cyberpunk anime coming out. They got lots of stuff in the works.
Well, unless there's anything else on that, just a couple of quick mentions that a couple games came out. Shin Megami Tensei 3, the HD version, came out on the Switch this past week,
featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series
and Knuckles.
Yeah, and Knuckles.
Super Bomberman R Online launched on the Switch. Anybody check out either of these games or have any thoughts on either? I've been meaning to try Super Bomberman Online, but I haven't.
Yeah, I'll save my thoughts on Super Bomberman R for the games we've been playing segment for the end. But yeah, I have been playing it, and it's free. Like, so check it out. It's definitely worth checking out. That's a spoiler.
Okay.
Well, if you like to, Battle Royale, Tetris 99, Pac-Man 99 style stuff, it's right up your alley.
Moving on into a little bit of Smash news then. So as we discuss sometimes, Sakurai, the director of Smash, he writes a column for Famitsu, a publication out of Japan. And I don't remember if I think it's every other week or something like that.
That's
Does that sound right?
Yeah, every 2 weeks.
On his most recent one, or one of the recent ones, this was getting passed around in English. Of course, it gets translated by fans and that sort of thing. So it was unclear. He had mentioned retirement, so everybody was freaking out about maybe he's going to retire. But it sounds like he was mostly talking about just retiring from writing this column. Though I've seen some people argue that maybe it means games too. I don't know. But there was a big to-do about that when that article, or when that translation kind of first came out. good for him. Take a break from things you don't want to do. And everybody listening, if you're ever involved in something you don't want to do, retire.
Yeah. Follow Patrick. Just do whatever Patrick does. Just leave your fucking job.
With zero plan. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, if the man was like, dude, I'm just going to play Picross for the rest of my life, I'd be like, more power to you. So, I mean, I'd love Sakurai to not retire and keep making games because he's a brilliant designer and he puts love and care into any project that he does. So I'd love to see him make stuff forever, but I think that he's more than given the world, like we should be grateful to have had Sakurai at all at this point, so if you want to retire, feel free. But I do agree that this probably what this mainly means is that this is going to be the end of Smash Ultimate development, right? Like after these two fighters or after this Fighters Pass, whatever, I think probably
it's about time.
Yeah, I think it's high time, and I think it's time for him to at least step away from the game. And then, a couple years down the line, he's going to get bored. I'm sure he'll work on something else.
In other Smash news, we also Matt mentioned this at the top. There's Nintendo posted this on Twitter. There's a company or an organization called Play Versus or Play VS that must do some sort of esports tournament type organization for high schools and colleges and that kind of thing. And they are adding Smash and Splatoon 2 to their games. So in theory, if you're in high school and you're listening to this and you want to get a club together, look into Play VS. I think they like sponsor high schools to have competitive Smash and competitive Splatoon teams. So that's cool.
And not just a club, a varsity club.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like you're an athlete.
That's the way it's framed.
Fucking time.
It's about time our people got recognized.
Yeah, exactly.
That's offensive. I'm sorry.
No, get super buff and become a jock and play Splatoon competitively in high school. That's the new
shove nerds into their lockers and say, "Woo me."
Yeah. Shove football players into the locker. It's their time.
This is cool, man. It's just like it's cool to see just video games and kind of enter this space that are kind of put on the same pedestal as other sports. I'm from a small town in Ohio, so to see anything being recognized as a varsity sport other than sports, like throwing a ball or hitting a ball. This is cool.
Next stop, Olympics. Straight up.
I don't know.
That's a really interesting.
Alexei Pajitnov, who the creator of Tetris, always said that his dream is for Tetris to become an Olympic sport.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's kind of cheating. I mean, I'm a nerd too. I don't watch sports. I don't play sports, but we've got to cross the line somewhere.
Yeah.
Are crosswords a sport? They're a game technically, but come on.
So I think this is really an interesting discussion. I think we've even talked about this either on the podcast or on the Discord, where like Sports Illustrated used to have a segment in it of like, is this a sport or not? And where do you draw that line? It does get tricky. Like,
I hardly consider bowling a sport.
Yeah.
like you're just sitting down for most of it.
Then golf isn't either. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It's like it's like you want to say that like you having to like work out and exercise and be at like a good physical condition as being a sport, but then there's bowling and curling and golf. You don't have to work out for those.
No. Well, this is a whole other discussion that we should have.
Yeah.
but like let's save it.
This will be on Super Sports Headz. Yeah.
Our esports, real sports. Also in Smash related news, the next like online tournament in Smash Ultimate event, whatever you want to call it, is celebrating all the 35th anniversaries that are happening this year. All the characters from those games that are in Smash Ultimate, which there's a handful of, as we know, not just the big ones like Zelda, but Metroid, Dragon Quest, Kid Icarus, a lot of games.
Castlevania.
That's right. It was a big year for the NES is basically what we're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Especially as people have pointed out in their articles about this and stuff, that like Nintendo isn't exactly acknowledging these anniversaries, but Smash Ultimate is.
Smash is Nintendo confirmed.
And relatedly, there was a bunch of Dragon Quest. Square Enix announced a bunch of Dragon Quest games. They had a event, and I don't know that we don't nobody here, I don't think, is a huge Dragon Quest fan. Talking Sock, do you? I don't really hear you talk about RPGs much. Do you like Dragon Quest?
I like some. I mean, I'm not opposed to Dragon Quest. I love the designs, the monsters. I think on PS2, my older brother played Dragon Quest 8, but that's pretty much my, the extent of my exposure to it.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I played some of 11. Didn't get super far into it, but I did enjoy it. There's definitely some good looking stuff in this presentation, though.
Well, probably the biggest one is they announced 12, right? So that's the biggest one. But there was
supposed to be a more adult take on the Dragon Quest franchise, is what it said as well, which is interesting. I've never really thought about Dragon Quest as like, or Dragon Quest as like too kiddie or anything like that. But yeah, that's interesting. And then there's like the Octopath Traveler style Dragon Quest 3 remake, which is I think what most people are excited for.
Yeah. That one appeals the most to me, just the visuals of it. And a handful of other announcements out of that too, of other Dragon Quest games and expansions and that kind of thing.
Side stories, yeah. I think that the trailer for the Dragon Quest 3 remake has more views than the Dragon Quest 11 stuff, and it's like really shot up in Japan. I think Dragon Quest 3 was like a very classic game in Japan, and very highly regarded. So that's why they're doing it with that one. I also want to quickly say, because I keep hearing people online talk about, oh my God, they're porting the Octopath Traveler HD 2D engine over. It's just Unreal Engine 4.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the Octopath engine. They're just creatively using Unreal Engine 4. Yeah.
They made their own Octopath engine.
Yeah. It's not as hard as people are saying it is.
That means Chrono Trigger HD 2D is coming.
Dude, it fucking should. Like, I think that they're probably going to see how this does, and I think it's going to do well. And if this does well, I think we could see Final Fantasy VI remade in this way. I think we could see Chrono Trigger remade in this way. Yeah, I think they might as well. It's a great way to port old 16-bit games. So I'd like
Super Mario RPG.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, it's already it's faux isometric, I guess. Yeah.
And Octopath did start as a Switch exclusive, so
that's right.
So in addition to that presentation, there was the Sega Sonic Central presentation that happened recently, where they showed off a number of things, but most importantly, a shitty Sonic mascot suit that you can play as in Tokyo Olympic Games 2020. Right?
You watch your fucking mouth, Patrick. That is a good looking mascot suit. As someone who owns a full body Sonic costume, you watch your mouth.
Yeah, I would say that was the best part of this presentation, seeing a mascot run a 100-meter dash.
But in all seriousness, there was like a bunch of collaborations like that, where you can play as Sonic in a bunch of games where you don't want to play as Sonic. But
there's Sonic, Knuckles, and Shadow Chains that you can buy now as well, which looked pretty. Yeah,
from King Ice.
That's right.
But to be serious, I guess the coolest looking things was the Sonic Colors remake or remaster or whatever you want to call it. It's called Sonic Colors Ultimate was announced. And like there'd been rumors of this because of leaks and that kind of thing, but
very excited for that. Colors is a great game. Yeah.
And then the other one that was also leaked is Sonic Origins, which is like a bunch of the old Sonic games all in one package.
Right.
Which has kind of already happened, right? Like, or at least you can buy them individually.
Yes, but I mean, there have been lots of Sonic collections throughout the year, right? Like, I mean, I have one for the GameCube, which is excellent. But this one's very good to have because it is I'm pretty sure it's the Christian Whitehead ports of the game. So Christian Whitehead, the guy who made Sonic, why can't I remember
Mania?
Sonic Mania, who made Sonic Mania, which is arguably the best Sonic game, ported 1 and 2 for mobile, basically rewriting the entire game, making them widescreen, adding the spin dash and new characters and all this stuff. So these will be those versions of the game, and this will also include Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, and Sonic CD, all in that, I think, widescreen remade form factor. So it'll be like essentially, like
the definitive.
Sonic. It's like the definitive versions of the game. So that's exciting to see.
That's cool. And then there was a big tease, or a tiny tease at the end.
Yeah, a non-tease.
A Metroid Prime 4 level reveal.
That's right.
Yeah.
They showed, I don't even know what, like, it was like super short, like Sonic in the woods, and looks kind of, and then like a weird symbol, and that was all we got.
Yeah, he runs.
2022. Yeah.
With the year 2022. Yeah. So presumably a 3D open world Sonic. I mean, there's been some rumors or leaks of people who had other info related to this that said that this was going to be, what's the name of it? I should have put this
Sonic
in
Rangers.
Yeah.
So not only were there like 4chan leaks about this, but in a press release, Sega themselves revealed the name to be Sonic Rangers.
Oh, I didn't know that was official.
Yeah, I mean, that's Sega for you. They do shit like this all the time.
That's why we knew about everything that was in this.
Yeah. And so basically, and also like on the files on the website, like you could open it up and it was referred to as Sonic Rangers. So that's definitely the name of the game. And then not only that, this leak that you're referring to from January on 4chan, and that's where it was described as an open world game, kind of Breath of the Wildish style game, which is interesting to hear. So obviously I'm only reporting on these rumors that I've heard from 4chan, but like if that's the name of the game, you'd have to imagine
they're right.
Yeah. That it's been in development for a long time. Yeah.
That sounds like it could be cool if it's done well, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. Is it the Bowser's Fury of Sonic games?
Yeah, it's in the Bowser's Fury engine, which is just Unreal Engine 4.
Wait a minute.
Nintendo is epic, confirmed.
Lol.
Any other? What y'all think about this Sonic Central presentation as a whole, or any pieces we didn't talk about, or anything you want to say on it? Anything?
I think it was pretty well paced. It's just a shame that there was absolutely nothing interesting.
Well, and it all got leaked.
So. Sega and leaks don't. They're unfortunately really good friends. Matt, did you have any takeaways from this?
I think the most interesting thing to me, on top of the mascot being in Tokyo 2020 games, is Sonic costumes in 2 Point Hospital. I think that's a interesting collaboration with Microsoft, because Sonic is also coming to Minecraft as well, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, they like teased that. They didn't really show it, but yeah, just like a little.
It can't look good.
Yeah.
What is he gonna look like in Minecraft?
Yeah,
I just think 2 Point Hospital is such an interesting choice for Sega to partner with. I don't know. I find that
no, Sega does 2 Point Hospital. It's their IP.
Is it theirs? Because they own. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That must be why.
I'm an idiot then. Yeah.
It's okay. We're leaving that in the podcast, by the way.
Cool. No,
just the part where you say I'm an idiot. We'll put everything else.
No, that's fine. Yeah, someone make a dubstep remix of me saying I'm an idiot.
Well, no, I mean it is a weird thing. I mean, I would never think
weird.
If there was going to be a Sonic crossover, it would be in 2 Point Hospital. It's very, very odd. But I don't think this is the end of Sonic stuff, because this is the 30th anniversary of Sonic, right? So I think they even said this is like the first of many news drops we'll be getting throughout the year. So I'm just really hoping for, this like Sonic 2D collection is awesome, but we've gotten a lot of Sonic 2D collections before. I'd love a Sonic Adventure collection, or some collection of their 3D outings, or re-release Generations. Generations was like such a great Sonic game.
I'm an Unleashed guy.
Oh yeah, you like Unleashed?
I actually really like Unleashed, even the Werehog levels.
Yeah, it's big beefy monster Sonic.
Yeah.
So yet another presentation that happened this past week, which I haven't had a chance to watch this one, so I hope somebody here has. The State of Play, the Sony PlayStation State of Play on Horizon Forbidden West. I don't have a PS5, not planning to get one, so I didn't rush out to watch
Luckily
this.
for you, it's coming out on PS4 as well.
Oh, okay. I still have the other one in shrink wrap behind me. I need to play it at some point, but I haven't.
Yeah.
So, did anybody watch this? What do y'all think?
I watched this. It looks great. It looks like another entry into Horizon. It does look like a PS4 game. Some of the lighting looks like it's PS5 footage, but some of the animations you could tell that you got to.
It looks like a very good PS4 game. I think is worth saying. It's like it still looks very good
with ray tracing.
Yeah, with ray tracing, right? Yeah, the underwater stuff is what everybody's talking about. It looked really great, right? It's very colorful.
Yeah, I think it looks cool.
Was there anything of note to pull out of this presentation, or was it just kind of showing off some of the gameplay and footage? Or
I would say there's two mechanics that are kind of new to the series. There's a grappling hook, which helps the game. I think it'll be more vertical. Horizon was more of a horizontal game that you traverse.
It's Horizon Zero Dawn, dude.
Yeah.
It's literally horizontal, isn't it?
Oh my god. I'm an idiot twice.
Wait, no.
You just set it up. You set it up.
Just making a.
I love it. There's that piece, the grappling hook, and then there's another one which is like what's the thing from Breath of the Wild where he floats?
It's the paraglider.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So I think those two things tells me that we're gonna see more vertical gameplay in this game, which I'm excited for because it scratches that Breath of the Wild itch.
Every time this game comes up, I feel like people are like, it came out at the same time as Breath of the Wild, and that game had more expansive vertical exploration, and so it kind of.
Which is why ultimately, I mean, this looked great, but I never fully got into Horizon Zero Dawn because I just kept comparing it to Breath of the Wild, and I just had so much more freedom and more fun with movement in that game. And that's because there's just free climbing in Breath of the Wild. And at the end of the day, the Horizon games are not structured that way. And you could see it in this trailer. There are like little lit up yellow spots on the nodes that you can grab on certain objects, and the rest are just kind of there to be artificial walls or whatever. So unfortunately for me, that, and I know that's asking a lot to just be like, be Breath of the Wild, but it's like, but I was kind of expecting, like maybe a little bit more freedom, but it seems like they decided to not go with the being able to climb on everything this go around, which I feel like is ultimately a wasted opportunity. But that just means designing a whole brand new game, so you can't really fault them for it.
Dude, it's just using the Breath of the Wild engine.
Unreal, just ported it over.
I would say like just offer a challenge to that. I was like, Breath of the Wild is great for movement, but Horizon just has better combat mechanics.
That's true.
It's more robust, deeper. So it's all the matter of like what you value more. Is it the movement, Breath of the Wild, or is it combat, Horizon? It
looks like they really
similar.
beefed up the kind of melee mechanics in this game as well too. So I feel like combat will be even more fun in this new game.
All right. Well, last bit of news we have on here is Axiom Verge 2 got delayed again, which is fine, no big deal. But the thing I thought that was, I don't know. The thing I thought that was kind of interesting related to this is when they announced the delay, the creator announced that they would make the documentary about the making of the first game free. And I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to go check this out because I want to see.
Wasn't Axiom Verge just made by one guy though?
Yeah, I think so. I think it.
So is the documentary just like him sitting at his desk?
Yeah, just typing. 2 hours of coding.
Love that code window.
There's a lot of drama in it. Yeah, I don't know. It just sounds like it could. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's boring, but it's free, so it's worth.
I don't want to shit
out
on it before I've seen it. Yeah. But.
I
think making of stuff is fascinating in any kind of medium. So I'm sorry to poo-poo on it. I think it's a great idea.
Well, that does it. We're going to take a break. That's the news and rumors for now. When we come back, we're going to be talking all about ARMS on what is close to its 4th year anniversary.
Yeah.
All right, so this week we are talking all about ARMS. We have a talking sock on to talk about ARMS because I know you've done at least a video or two about ARMS, and you like ARMS. That's fair to say, correct?
It's very fair to say.
Awesome. Just in general, you kind of like I don't know what's the lesser known IP of Nintendo. I feel like, or the
yeah. It's mostly dumb luck that my favorite IPs out of Nintendo are the ones that they never revisit. But yeah, It's I use the term neglected. Yeah.
It also makes sense as an ARM that you would be such a fan of ARMS.
Yeah, funny how that works.
Yeah.
But ARMS came out on June 16th, 2017, just a few months after the Switch came out. And we're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of it. We would have timed this out better for that, probably if there wasn't E3.
Right.
But we're doing it now because we've never had a chance to talk about ARMS on the podcast, at least in depth. And I've even been hearing some people say, "Well, do you think there'll ever be a sequel to ARMS?" And E3 could be a place they'd show it off. I don't think it's very likely, and we'll talk about that more at the end. But I didn't have a Switch at launch, so I didn't play ARMS when it first came out. But once all the DLC and all that was out, sort of towards the end of 2017 is when I got my Switch, and I fell in love with this game, and I spent a lot of time with it. So I'm excited to get a chance to talk about it with y'all. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and all that. I think kind of like Matthew at the beginning, you were talking about is a simple but complex game. I think that's like true of a lot of fighting games, but I guess we should just, if anybody has no idea what ARMS is, it's a 3D fighting game by Nintendo with sort of a boxing mechanic where you have these sort of long distance boxing, and in addition to selecting characters, you select the actual arms that they have. So it's like you make a character choice, but it also matters equally or more what arms you use, with all different sorts of elements and different types of attacks and unique things and stuff like that. And I'm rambling. Does anybody feel free to interrupt me?
ARMS is it isn't a completely new concept. It's just a really new take on the arena fighter,
Right.
which is a sort of an offshoot of the fighting game genre. And and some purists I've seen some people on YouTube compare it to what's it called? Oh shoot, I just forgot. Virtual On, which was an old Sega arena fighter, where it's in those, because you're a far distance away from your opponent, you need a method of attack that isn't just punching and kicking, because that involves getting really close. So, and with the camera angle, it doesn't work.
Right.
And that was actually the inspiration behind ARMS as a game. Kosuke Yabuki and a couple of the other producers, they were having a game jam one night, and they were sort of thinking how do you do a fighting game with an over the shoulder camera angle?
Right.
And they sort of arrived at the idea of, oh, well, if your arms go into the distance, then you could punch each other while still being able to move around the arena.
Right.
Whereas Custom Robo and Virtual On, they sort of would do guns, bombs, things like that. They used arms.
Right.
And from there, the design is all really well informed, and I love it. Even down to the character designs, like Twintel. She fights with her hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her arms are like pigtails.
Mm-hmm.
So the designers were thinking well, if we know we want to do a variant of the arms being hair, but then that also means that the character themselves will have regular human arms. So what are they going to do with them? Why do they have them? They figured, to pose,
Right.
So they figured, she should be a model. And that's where they came up with all that. And other stuff like that too. Like Master Mummy, they sort of thought bandages are a good arms thing. You associate bandages with mummies. Everybody does really weak and lame mummies because they're walking corpses.
Right.
So they said, our mummy's going to be jacked. He's going to be buff.
Yeah.
It's very unconventional, and I love it for that.
I think that's I think what you're kind of describing there is, I think, what speaks to me most about ARMS. And I think that there's a lot of really good stuff in ARMS. I think ARMS is a great game, and it is completely overlooked. I mean, it's, and I say it's completely overlooked. It's sold millions of copies at this point, actually. It was a successful IP for Nintendo. A lot of that was because the Switch was out early and there wasn't a ton of software at the beginning. And so that was a big seller at the beginning. It was also a good showcase for the Joy-Con and the motion control and stuff like that. So that was good. But I think for me, outside of all of that, I think the reason that ARMS really resonates with me is the love and care that has gone into the world that they've created for this game. Because this could have been a very simple, it's a first IP. It's a new IP for Nintendo. So this could have easily just been a showcase of hey, we've got a couple characters here and you can move it around and punch up and down and whatever, right? Kind of like 1-2 Switch. Kind of felt very bare bones when that came out.
Yeah, the characters could have been Mii's.
Right, exactly. Right. It could have been, just like boxing like me boxing, right?
Long distance boxing, yeah.
Right.
Spring
And
boxing or
I
something.
mean, which it essentially is. But I think the reason that it's so beloved and the reason that people keep going back to it is because they had just like really interesting characters and like really unique character designs for everybody. The world itself is fleshed out with its own like kind of strange Splatoon-esque lore.
Yeah.
The kind of way that they explore the story of ARMS is all contextually, stuff you find in loading screens or through or stuff like that. And so I think that just that love and care that went into it is very apparent. And it's also apparent too when you look at the team that made it. It's made by the same team who did Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And you look at those games, what should just be simple racing venues are filled to the brim with detail and all this little stuff if you want to check it out. So in a game where it's easier for you to actually look around the arena and actually take all that stuff in, I thought they did an excellent job with that.
Absolutely. And it's also, one of the really appealing things to me about it, and sort of ARMS kind of catches a lot of flack for being one of the first of the Nintendo games to sort of do the finish it later model, as I've heard it been coined. They sort of started with Splatoon, where they said, we'll roll out maps and whatnot just later in updates.
Right.
But with ARMS, I thought it was really interesting that like the first Direct, right? The dedicated ARMS Direct sort of hinted at there being a history, like an origin to the ARMS phenomenon. But they just sort of, it's been around for hundreds of years now, so the general populace aren't really questioning it. It's just sort of like part of their everyday life.
Right.
But like they introduced an artwork gallery a little bit down the line that introduced the ARMS Confidentials, which goes a little bit into what they have dug up about how it started. And like prominent key figures in doing that research. And the last character they introduced, not only is she like, the puppet master, as it were, behind ARMS Labs and a lot of the characters, a lot of stuff, the final boss in the vanilla game, is just, and she's also the one who orchestrates the equivalent to Splatfests.
Right.
Where instead of like, Splatfests are, which is better, mayonnaise or tuna? I don't know.
Yeah.
But with ARMS Labs, Coil is saying like, everybody rally behind a fighter, test their limits, see who comes out on top. Like it's a fighting game bracket. And it's all in service of something, but we just don't know. So, so I was kind of hoping that we'd find out before, the support was dropped. But sadly, that never came to fruition. So that's what really makes me want to see a sequel more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because the gameplay itself, I can come back to it, day and night and day. An ARMS sequel, if it doesn't change much about the gameplay, I'm happy. I love it the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that another aspect I think that keeps people coming back beyond just the love and care that's been put into the world building is the like online play as well. I think like as far as like Nintendo online games go, ARMS is really well done. You know what I mean? I think they took I love the kind of way that the online is set up in that game where you hop on and there's kind of rooms and then the matches kind of get divvied out throughout those lobbies, right?
The party mode, yeah.
Yeah, the party mode. Yeah. And I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it's still pretty easy to find games.
Yeah, I played some today and last night, and just I loved ARMS. I played it a ton, and I play one competitive game at a time, kind of, and ARMS was for a period. I haven't been lately, but fired it back up. Had no trouble finding opponents and lobbies and that kind of thing. So which we will talk about, the ARMS is dead slogan, meme, whatever you want to call it at some point, but it's definitely not. There's people playing it, and
it's more than you can say for like Mario Tennis Aces. I feel like it's got a more robust online community than that game does, and that's a much more recent game.
I think that game has some comparisons to ARMS in terms of like has really good. Both games have really good gameplay mechanics. That maybe they just kind of missed the mark on single player, which is where a more casual player might find enjoyment or something. You know what I mean? I don't think that...
Which I get to an extent. I feel like where ARMS missed the mark in terms of single player content is just flourish and presentation.
Yes.
Because the Grand Prix is, it's pretty robust. And after the Dr. Coyle update, if you do it on higher difficulties, you get a whole different
Coyle,
set of cutscenes. Yeah.
Okay, right.
And Biff's dialogue, you know, you talk about the world building. A lot of people will probably just skip through it, but Biff, the announcer character,
you can't skip through it.
You can,
which is another problem I have. But yes,
I never
I'm sorry.
Even tried because I just love it.
I don't mean to like interrupt you, but go on.
No, now I'm an idiot.
No, you're not an idiot. I was playing Grand Prix today, and I was just trying to just play a little bit. And I was like, God, just wish I could skip this dialogue because I just want to get to the fight.
You gotta soak up that lore, Patrick. You gotta get the story in you. Yeah,
I do. When it's not lore, it's just him being cute.
Yeah,
you know, because he's like a total fanboy of Ribbon Girl and Max Brass, or he'll do like snake puns for Kid Cobra, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then other times, you know, he drops something really interesting, like you're at the mausoleum, Min versus Master Mummy or whatever. And instead of saying anything related to their showdown, he'll just be like, you know, there's a mummy hospital in the area. It's like, what, there are more? there are multiple mummies?
Right.
You know, like this is the thing about this world. You raise people back from the dead. Like, you know, that's kind of huge.
If we get to 20,000 subscribers, I'll read my ARMS fanfic.
The criticism of the single player too, I don't know what else they would do. Like, it's not that different than any other fighting games.
Right.
Single player, really. Like, that's not what fighting games are about. It's like same as like a first person shooter. Usually the single player is okay or whatever, and this was okay. So.
I've actually got a video about this in production as we speak. Like I'm getting B-roll for it and stuff.
Oh, nice. Cool.
So I won't go into it too hard, but basically I think that for an ARMS sequel and where ARMS 1 missed the mark just a little bit is like I said, the flourish of the presentation. If the UI, if the menus had a little more character, like maybe you were punching targets to select modes, you know, sort of like the ARMS equivalent of Inkopolis Square. I feel like that alone would have helped a lot. Yeah. Also, like for the tournament mode, if instead of, you know, a panoramic shot of the stage while Biff talks about, you know, describes the character, if it was like a motion comic or a brief cutscene, I feel like a lot more people, they'd feel more encouraged to like play through with every character and come back for the updates.
That's kind of like the flip side of what we were talking about of what being so cool about the way they did the lore in this game is that like you kind of do have to dig for it, and it maybe a little bit should have been more in your face.
yeah. I mean, you definitely feel like Splatoon and ARMS are like brother and sister franchises, right? They're like, or sibling franchises. It's like they both kind of have a similar way of rolling out. It's like these are like Nintendo's competitive games, you know, other than like Mario Kart, right? So yeah, I find that interesting.
So the general fighting mechanics, I really enjoy the general fighting. There's sort of the rock, paper, scissors. It's not unique to ARMS where, you know, a punch beats a grab beats a block beats a punch. But then you add in all the different character abilities and especially all the different ARMS abilities, and it gets infinitely complex. There's some really interesting ARMS choices. You know, there's your gloves, but then there's these curving arms, and then there's arms that reflect things back. What are those ones called?
That's there's only one. I forget what it's called. It came with Lollipop. The clapback. That's right.
Yeah. Which like so occasionally you'll come up against an opponent and you're like, oh, I got this, and then they throw out some weird combination that you've never dealt with of arms. Like, there's a lot of you have a lot of choice as a customization. I feel like as a player, and that's really interesting to me about this game.
Literally tens of thousands of possible variants.
Yeah. Because you pick a left arm and a right arm, so you can bring in 2 to 1.
That's
and then
gotta be part of the reason that the game has had such longevity as well for the online community is just the variety of gameplay that you can have. You know, not only just in the different kinds of characters and their own unique abilities, but then the customization you can do on top of that. Really very robust.
Yeah, and working it with the different characters because they all, for the most part, move very differently through the arena. Like Lollipop has the ability to sort of inflate her suit, which turns you into a bubble, so she can then bounce, deflate really quickly to do a really long dodge or a really high jump.
Right.
And she can also move around while she blocks, which none of the other characters can do.
Right.
So she alone, she's really fun to like move around the arena with. But then if you've got a character like, I don't know, Ribbon Girl, who can do a lot of jumps and is very fast and lightweight, then she's gonna, not have a hard time keeping up at all and be able to like punch and stuff too while she does it. So, yeah, a lot of stuff to keep in mind.
And then, I think something that turned a lot of people off to this game is the motion controls, which I think the motion controls are fine and good, but I think there's a lot of people, anytime ARM comes up, people will be like, oh, I would have liked it, but I don't like motion controls. I don't play ARMs with motion controls. I never did. I tried it. I tried it the first week or whatever of me playing it, and I switched to buttons, and I was like, this is a lot more fun for me. And it's got mappable
I do it very
controls.
Occasionally. Yeah, I try very occasionally to do the motion controls. I try remapping the buttons with the motion controls to like see what works. But at the end of the day, I like to just lay on my bed, put it in handheld mode, and use the buttons.
Yeah,
sure.
And it's all completely robust too. Like before the Switch itself had the option to swap buttons, ARMS already did.
Yeah. And I think that it's completely unfair to write off the game if you don't like motion controls. I mean, I personally love the motion controls.
It's got good motion controls.
I'm not nearly as good at the game with motion controls as I am with buttons and sticks, but I do prefer to play that way just because I think it's intuitive and it's interesting, and there's a learning curve, right? And it's kind of like the tilting to move like is very awkward at first. And then also
it's literally a learning curve.
Right, exactly.
Your arms.
Yeah. And like punching, there's a difference between punching like this, and punching like this, right? And so like having all that stuff is difficult at first to figure out. But then once you figure it out, it's like, man, there's really no other game like this out there in the world at all. And so I really enjoy it that way. But that having been said, like the game is just as much fun, if not more fun, for a lot of people to play traditionally. And so I think that's like props to the developers for doing that, because like we'll see how that works out with Skyward Sword. Like if Skyward Sword is nearly as fun to play without the motion controls, I hope it is. But it's like it's just good to know that both can work really, really well. It shows they put a lot of time and effort into both modes.
And just while we're talking about the motion controls, there are advantages and disadvantages to playing either way, and it feels like in terms of the top players in the world and that kind of thing, you see both. So it really is kind of up to whoever's playing it. And your point too about punching, I think when we were talking about motion controls recently, maybe Matthew, you were talking about you don't need to swing like a golf club when you're playing Wii Sports, and in ARMS you really don't want to punch. You watch Yabuki or somebody else play this game who's really good with motion controls. They're just doing very slight,
right,
moving their hands just a tiny bit, but
it's at least being accurate to the angle they need to do, right? It's not just a flick,
right?
Yeah. One shout out to our podcast listeners is like we're in a video right now, so we're like rotating our hands, and David, you are like punching towards the camera, but you are rotating your hand in like a 90 degree or 180 degree angle. That just to further explain the robust motion controls of ARMS.
Yeah, if you're listening to this in the audio version, subscribe to us on YouTube.
And also to that effect, it's the key difference. I think the thing that makes the motion controls not register is because naturally, when you punch, you want to extend your arm all the way, and you also want to control the speed at which you do it.
Right.
All the characters, depending on the type of arm you have, like a lightweight, heavyweight, midweight, they all move at a predetermined speed. So just doing the forward motion with the controller in your hand, I've got to describe it because I so for the audio people. but yeah.
Well,
and for the audio
also,
people, I just looked side to side because I don't have arms.
Also, for our audio listeners, our guest is a puppet this week. So, just so you know.
We should have said that. Well, we've covered a lot of things about sort of the general gameplay, but I did want to mention the mini games because, we talked about the party mode versus like there's a ranked mode, and that's nice that you have that separation and that there are items when you're playing in the more casual mode. It's not like
endless mode as well. The ARMS test.
Yes. But there are various mini games, like there's volleyball and basketball and these things that you play, and they can be a nice break from the fighting, but there's also ranked mode if you don't like them, and I feel iffy about them, but they are kind of like good palate cleansers.
I like that they're there.
Yeah,
I also like that they're there. I do wish, however, there were more, because I think when you play the game a lot, it's nice to have breaks between just normal rounds, but then they start to get repetitive because they come up so often, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of wish they added more, and if they do an ARMS sequel, I imagine that's something that they would beef up quite a bit, is like adding more modes, keeping the original ones and adding more. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the reason I like ARMS is for the fights and the battles. So,
and then
it's funny. It's actually a little bit like F-Zero in a way, the way that the game is structured in terms of unlocking things, because you get cash from playing online, like in-game currency to spend, not on the arms themselves, but on the arms getter, which is the skill shot minigame, which encourages you to practice your accuracy. Punching multiple targets at multiple levels, curving your punches and all that.
That's true.
And you do that for an allotted time, and arms in gift boxes will like scroll past, behind the targets, which you then have to punch to unlock more arms. And that's a little bit like F-Zero GX.
Yeah.
Because that game also, for the story mode and for Grand Prix, everything, you got tickets. Right. And with those tickets, you would unlock more machines, more pilots, or like more chapters to the story mode and all that. So, I think it's a really satisfying loop. I do kind of wish that there were more ways to unlock arms, at least different games to play.
Yeah, I've forgotten about that because I did it once I got really into it. I just unlocked every arm for every character, but that was a bit of a grind. That it was like a needless grind because I mostly just play as one character. But
who do you play as, by the way?
Mechanica.
I'm a Mechanica stan too. Yeah.
I just like her floating ability and her heaviness.
She's great. She's a very mobile tank, which is like, a good advantage. I myself, when the game launched, I was bite and bark all the way.
Okay, yeah.
But lately I've been more Lollipop.
Yeah. Before we move on to some outside of the game stuff, I did want to also just mention the general. We talked about the aesthetics of the game, the visuals and that kind of stuff a little bit with the character design and all that, but the music in this game, I really love the music in this game.
It's awesome. Yeah. It's got that like Brazilian kind of vibe to it, which I really enjoy. Yeah.
If any of you listeners, if you're on YouTube right now, like open this up in a new window, there's a YouTuber called Scruffy who does a lot of videos about audio design and stuff in video games, and he did a whole video talking about the cultural origins of ARMS' music and the different unique instruments they utilized.
Right.
And it's really, really neat because there's a lot of cultural fusion going on in like every level. And that's, and the characters themselves, they all like speak different languages, and there's a map in the Grand Prix. So it's like, it's a little bit, it's a bit of a bizarro Earth, but it's still, it feels so real because, they did their homework essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I love the music. Just like the main theme gets me pumped up every time I turn it on.
It's a good main theme.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm sure if there's anything in the main game that comes up, we can talk more about it. But I did want to kind of talk about the sort of ARMS is dead versus how much it actually sold. And anytime ARMS comes up, there's a lot of pushback against it as a game, and a bunch of people that be like, ARMS is dead became a thing. People say whenever ARMS was officially mentioned by Nintendo.
Well, all the articles was, does ARMS have legs? Right? Like
yeah, precisely. Yeah.
That's what everybody was like. Ooh, I just came up with a really creative article title. It's like, no, everybody's saying that.
and also like because Splatoon 2's release was just a couple months later, or not even that long, right?
Like a couple weeks.
Yeah. And people said that it's kind of overshadowed by that, and everybody quit to play that, which again, I don't think is true. It, the long tail of the game may not have existed in sales, but it did sell over 2 million copies within the first year or two. So I think that's just an unfortunate thing that I think maybe Nintendo sees whenever ARMS comes up, that people are negative about it. But I don't know. What do y'all think about that?
There's also, I think, the thing with Splatoon is it had the benefit of having a previous game as well. And shooters are just a broadly more, played genre.
Yeah,
the thing is, ARMS tried to sell itself to the competitive crowd and the casual crowd, and both were put off by the other.
Yeah,
I think. Because competitive players don't want to use the motion controls, and casual players are intimidated by the fighting mechanics.
I mean, Smash has had that problem as well, but it's also had like 5 games in order to work out those issues. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
Smash is also just, it's appealing to have Mario and Link in the same game.
right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's where it built its fan base off of.
Right.
Whereas ARMS, it's completely new. It's not, you know, Mario's springtime boxing fun. It's a completely new game. And the name itself, it's perfect in retrospect, but it's a single word. It's 4 letters. It's not the sexiest on, like, you know, a magazine cover. Like, just ARMS coming soon. Like, if you saw that in Nintendo Power, it's like balls with a Z. Do you remember that one?
I remember balls. Yeah, I think this is where I can come in a little bit, which is just mostly like, I have no experience with ARMS. And I think, you know, Sock, what you're saying is, I don't know who this game is for. If it's competitive or casuals. And it's also, you know, this game came out in 2017, as we said. It's coming out during a time when it's a renaissance of fighting games. And this is maybe an arena fighter, but we have Tekken and Soul Calibur and King of Fighters, and Smash came out a year and a half later. And fighting games are huge right now. And the presentation
Blaze
of this,
Blue as well.
That's
Blaze
true.
Blue, Skullgirls, all of those fighting games, they're so huge right now. And as y'all have said, this is a unique entry into this type of genre, fighting games, but arena fighters. And I think when I look at this, I see a Nintendo franchise with the Nintendo polish, but I'm not. I don't like quite. It doesn't pull me. It doesn't grab me. And it's interesting to hear y'all talk about these complex mechanics and this complex story. Because I would otherwise never hear it. So just if you're listening to this or watching this right now and you're like, I've never played ARMS, maybe it's a little convincing me. It sounds cool.
Yeah.
There's a demo.
Yeah.
There's a demo on the eShop.
It's definitely worth trying out. It's like, I think you might be surprised, Matt, by how robust it is. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people had with it, is they kind of wrote it off as me boxing, you know what I mean? Like beforehand, or some sort of, you know, punch out clone of some nature. And it's really not that at all. It's a very, very unique kind of game. And in fact, I think that a lot of people compare it to Splatoon for good reasons, you know, in the way that it's rolled out content and the time that it came out and being a new Nintendo IP. But I think the game to really compare it to more so than any of that is Pokken Tournament, right? Like Pokken Tournament is another game, a fighting game that like uses a kind of similar perspective as well, right? Like that's not your standard like 2D side-scrolling fighter. And that also had really unique elements to it. And that's just another game that I think a lot of people also overlooked. And it's just interesting those came out around the same time as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's
probably,
you
know, the deluxe version anyway.
Right.
That's probably why I kind of haven't played ARMS yet, is like a lot of the arena fighters, and I never thought about, you know, thinking about this like virtual on, but like Pokken and all the Namco Bandai games, all the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games, they all feel the same. So all the characters do feel similar. I can play virtual on for like 15 minutes and play multiple robots, but they all feel the same. Same thing with like Jump Force. All the characters, different animations, different punches, but the bread and butter are basically all the same. I think that's the one thing I was scared of while watching this game, is it's got the same feelings of all of these arena fighters. And I would want to feel something different. But what I'm hearing from all of y'all are saying that the characters do feel unique.
Yeah,
the ARMS especially. So. Like even if you played you played Springman with like the very heavy bouncy arms versus the super light curving arms. I mean, it's just like such different mechanic and choices in style and play style than to be aggressive or be defensive or what have you, even outside the character choice, which does add a lot as well.
And there's their special traits as well, like Helix when he does a charge dodge where you sort of like you swiftly dodge but also charge your arms. He like recedes like, you know, into a puddle. Mm-hmm. But if he also if you then hold the jump button, then he like turns really long. You know, so it's like
you can
all the characters in that respective, just like the regular things, like the base in ARMS, the base mechanics are left punch, right punch, grab, guard. They all do the same thing, but the characters will, like, aside from the punches, what that button input does might be completely different for, like, depending on the character.
Right.
Not completely to the point where it's, like, unintuitive moving from character to character, but in a way where it's like, oh, I've got to think differently how I move around the map and how I respond to my opponent.
Yeah, and if you don't gel with one of the way the characters go, there's like tons of other options for you. Then I think it's like Matt, like what you're talking about with a lot of those arena fighters feeling samey as far as all the characters go. I mean, that has to be why they put so much variety not only into the movement options, but also into the customization of all the individual swappable arms. It's like for that exact reason. It's like when you've got less perspective of like a 2D fighting game. There's a lot more you can do within that with combos and individual move sets. But when you add in the extra dimension of the arena fighter, that's where stuff starts to get a little lazy. And so this game, I feel like completely sidestepped that issue that a lot of arena fighters have. It's really cool.
Well, to sort of round out the discussion and then lead us to the sequel question, there was a graphic novel that was announced for ARMS. That they put out a free comic book day preview back in 2018. I went and got it. Was excited about this graphic novel because I was really into the game at the time, and then just radio silence till this year, actually, right when we got official word that it was not happening. Dark Horse was going to do it, so that's a bummer. That's where we were kind of hoping maybe to get those answers you were talking about, Sock, about the lore. So what that means, that kind of makes you think that Nintendo isn't that interested in ARMS.
Never fear, everybody. I am directing an ARMS anime. So.
Oh, thank goodness.
But then Nintendo also added Min Min to Smash, which makes you think they don't want people to forget about it. They already had Spring Man in there, and they used one of their few additional character slots to put a playable ARMS character in. So I don't know. I feel like that's like counterpoint there about what Nintendo wants to do with this game going forward. I don't know. So maybe we can talk about the sequel. There was Zippo, the leaker, and some podcast mentioned that according to
it was the Source Gaming
podcast. On when he was on there, or they were on there, they mentioned that according to their sources, Nintendo considered ARMS a failure despite the sales, which is kind of weird to me. I guess maybe they wanted it to catch on as a phenomenon more, like Splatoon did.
I saw that in the show notes, that timestamp. First of all, no offense to Zippo or the leaking community in general, but blow it up your ass. Yeah, like for real though. Like she said, he said. Like this isn't verifiable anything.
Yeah.
But even aside from that, what he said in particular was Nintendo considers ARMS a failure in regards to retention. Not enough people who bought ARMS kept playing ARMS, which I don't know if I believe, because all hours of the day, I'm finding people to play with. So even at like 3 a.m., and there'll be plenty of people with, a different alphabet making up their name, but they're there.
Yeah. Is that what they consider a success too? I mean, I can understand maybe that they were hoping this game would catch on as like a phenomenon where, people want to play it at tournaments or something, but Nintendo always seems weird about that too. So I don't know. Like,
I don't think it's that. I think it's like cultural capital, right?
Yeah.
I think Splatoon has, I mean, and I know it's a little unfair to compare because as you brought up before, Sock, there's already 2 Splatoon games by the time we were talking about ARMS, right? And there's another Splatoon coming up. But, they've been able to build a lot onto that franchise just in terms of like doing fucking concerts and merchandising and clothing lines and shit like that.
True.
And Splatoon really took off culturally in Japan, and then a lot of that spread throughout anime and Japanese enthusiast culture here in the States. And then it just kind of became a household hit, right? I think that Nintendo doesn't just look at numbers when they are deciding what to make sequels on. So I think just to give Zippo the benefit of the doubt there, I think that might be a little bit of what they were referring to, is just like that extra cultural capital that might not be where Nintendo needs it. And, these days too, I mean, it not just a Nintendo, but a big AAA game, you could sell millions of copies. And if it doesn't hit your projected margins, you know what I mean? It's still considered a failure. That having been said though, I mean, it's been so long since we've seen anything from these developers, be it Mario Kart 9 or a sequel to ARMS. And we know Nintendo's predisposition to hang on to fully completed games until it's the right time to release. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a finished ARMS sequel just sitting there waiting to be released and they're waiting for the right time. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that it means that it's dead in the water. But I certainly know where Zippo's coming from when they say that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Now, when they dropped support for ARMS in like late 2017, when Dr. Coyle came out and they started rolling out party crashes. After like a year, they stopped doing party crashes. It was around that time that, and because there was also like data mine for ARMS, like back when it first released, there were like tons of characters and other things that just never came out. Like we figured was coming out in an update, but it just ended unexpectedly early. Or, according to our perception, unexpectedly early. I figured that they were just sort of going to regroup and make a sequel and put all those ideas there. But the fact that it has been this long, it makes me think that it's going to be Mario Kart and they're going to do a similar model with updates. And they're going to do the same thing for the launch of their next system, and ARMS will never get a sequel. Because I'm a pessimist like that.
Well, let's be optimists for a minute and just talk about what we would want in a sequel to wrap up this episode.
I did want to say,
Matthew.
Yeah, one thing, it was like ARMS is developed by the EPD, Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development. So
the ninth team in particular, EPD 9.
Yeah,
they have 11 teams.
Do they have 11 teams?
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes total sense.
Nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, some other games that have come out of that division, at least, is like Bowser's Fury, Game Builder Garage, Splatoon. Splatoon 3 is coming out next year. Dr. Mario World and a bunch of other mobile games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's I think that's where a lot of the creativity comes from. It's that kind of youthful side of Nintendo. There's like a lot of young developers now, and I think that they're way more into like lore building and stuff than like the old guard, like the Miyamoto era, right? And that's why you get funny. A lot of that polish and detail.
Yeah, I actually did a little research on this because I want to do a video about it eventually. EPD, Nintendo EPD, all 11 divisions, all of the current producers all joined on to Nintendo after they were a video game company. So like, in the GameCube era, Nintendo's president had never even played a video game on a matter of principle.
Right.
But these days, they all grew up with Mario or Game & Watch or whatever.
Yeah.
Mr. Yabuki, ARMS producer in general, and in particular, he's actually the youngest producer. And he's like 40-something at Nintendo.
I mean, that even just goes to show where Nintendo's at in general these days. Furukawa grew up playing Nintendo games as a child. So it's like, they're just, I think that's a really good, speaking overall generally for Nintendo, I think that's a really good direction to go. It doesn't always work when you have like people who grew up with it making stuff. I mean, just look at the Star Wars sequels. But, but like,
they need a plan.
They just needed to plan. They just needed to plan. Yeah, JJ said as much.
Well, to wrap this up, then, like, just if we do get an ARMS 2 in whatever form that's in, I think, honestly, I'm kind of with you, Suck, that there's not much core gameplay. I don't really want core gameplay changes. I mean, a little bit more characters, more arms, more stages, more mini games.
And maybe the ability to, for loadouts, have 3 distinct arms on each side.
100%.
Instead of 3 for left and right.
Yes, that would be one of the bigger ones.
Because, and maybe the ability to change them mid-match, like Minion does in Smash Bros.
Ooh.
It could get crazy, but like, if you go into a round and you're fighting a Springtron with 2 Funchucks and you're like Kid Cobra with 2 Tri-Bolts, you stand no chance at all.
Yeah, there is that moment
so
when
being able to switch the mid match would actually be helpful in that.
Yeah,
sense.
there is that moment when you start a match and you're like, "Fuck! All I have is light arms,
Right.
and they've got heavy
Right.
arms or whatever." Yeah.
Well, what about if they added a tag team element to it then, where you pick multiple characters with multiple loadouts?
That would be cool too.
I think that would be sweet.
Cool.
I think do kind of Marvel vs. Capcom style, right? Like something where you can really quickly switch people out on the fly. I mean, obviously that would make the matches a lot longer, so you'd probably have to like balance the the HP and stuff like that.
It could be a separate mode, maybe. Yeah,
or it could be a separate mode.
Yeah.
I think just adding more modes like that would really make it that would be good for the fans of the original, right? Who want more. But then I think really what you need is like I think they really need a robust single player, right?
Yeah.
Like I think and really giving like a proper story mode to that can really draw people in, because I think people do a couple matches and they're like, oh, that was fun. But then they don't really put the time in to like really explore the depth of what the game has to offer. So I think a single player mode that really acts as like a good tutorial for that and all the different options you could do would be excellent.
The thing is, for a story mode, a lot of people bring this up. If they do one, I don't want it to be like, I don't want it to supersede the updates and all of the like the lore drops they bring and the fun of looking through the extra content.
Sure.
Because that for me, I love passive storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I love learning this stuff just because I want to.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like in your face and like, through the campaign and you like have characters like, Mechanicas, like, this is how I built my robot suit. The arms phenomenon relies upon this factor and this factor.
Right.
It's like, no one's going to care. You know? So it's going to be about the characters and the way they interact and the world they inhabit, which is all there. It's just a matter of putting it more in the forefront and more just throughout the entire experience.
I agree.
A lot of the things you said earlier, where like if they, instead of just showing the arenas and Biff talking, they had shown some like, freeze frame moments of even some of the things you're saying you don't want, but just of Mechanica building her suit or something when you pick her, you know what I mean? Little images and stuff like that would have gone a long way.
I mean, I think
and should be in the sequel.
You could just look to Splatoon for this as well. I think Splatoon does single player really, really well. And I think like, the single player campaign of Splatoon is not like the online, but it does teach you how to use all the weapons. It gives you a peek into the world, gives you the flavor of that kind of world building. And then, the Octo expansion, I never personally played that, but as I understand, it's like also a very like cool, robust way to like approach the story without it just spelling everything out for you. It just kind of drops you into that world, right? Which I think is probably
the issue with it is finding the fun. Because Splatoon is like, the single player is more platformer than shooter.
Right.
Because you have those completely free movement options. In ARMS, you don't have a free camera. You have to be aiming at something to punch, because that's just how it's built. It's a different kind of game. So in order to do a single player, like all fighting games, they just sort of have either beat 'em up segments or they have, matches. And ARMS could definitely put some more variety and context behind the matches they do. But in terms of like the bones of it, it's not going to be much different.
Make it an on-rails shooter, like Sin and Punishment or something like that.
Or it'd be
that's not a bad idea.
Like Tekken 3 for PlayStation, just put volleyball in it.
Yeah.
Exactly. They do that.
They've already done that.
Mode.
Yeah, they did it. Done. It should be a success.
They should have a mini game that's a rhythm game. I'm just saying that. Skill shot, but like Guitar Hero.
So we're not going with legs then.
No,
I'd
keep the game the same. That's always a joke that's made, and I don't like it.
Okay,
that feels like too much of a change up.
You got the leg strap from fucking Ring Fit Adventure.
Do you think talk about sequel names? Do you think it'll be ARMS 2 or Rearms?
Rearms.
I would say I've been thinking about this actually, because like F-Zero, there isn't like F-Zero 2, right?
Right.
Because in universe, F-Zero is the name of the event, the races. Right. It's called the F-Zero.
Yep.
Grand Prix, and Splatoon, it's a pun, splat and platoon.
Right.
But in the world, Splatoon means nothing.
Right.
Marie, Callie, nobody says Splatoon.
Right.
So you can get away with the numbered conventions. I think a good name for an ARMS sequel would be something like ARMS Recoil, but it's R-E as in refer to, and Coil as in Dr. Coil, Coyle.
I like that.
So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Or just recoil, like the word recoil. That works too.
I'm definitely behind you on that. Shouldn't be a number. It should be like a arms blank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But hopefully not some like hand pun or something like that. Yeah.
Arms Palooza.
arms tune. Yeah.
All right. Well,
we should, like I thought it might.
We should close out this discussion. Is there anything else anybody really wants to say about arms before we move on?
Armistad.
Okay.
All right, so
I guess no. Is it?
We talked about arms. We're gonna take another break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. All right. This week, I don't think I have a whole lot new to report. Same as last week. I thought I was going to start a new game, but I played some arms in preparation for this episode. Playing Topia with my son, and he's gotten really into drawing Mii's like on paper. And then been playing more Famicom Detective Club with my wife. So that's mostly what I've been playing.
What were you going to start?
I don't know. I've been on the fence. I have a bunch of games in my backlog about what to do. I'll let y'all know next time because I think it's going to happen. But the other thing I wanted to mention is I was hanging out with our neighbor and my kid and his other kid, and he has a Wii, and we played some Brawl. And then that got my son back into Smash, and he started making his own Smash stages and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
And his stages are always bad, but he made one that I really liked.
No one shits on Patrick's kid quite like Patrick
like
does.
me. But he made this Smash stage, which is like based on New Donk City, where he made a giant tower in the middle and then ladders next to it and then platforms down at the bottom. Like, this is actually a cool stage idea. It's pretty cool. So anyway,
very good.
That's what we've been doing.
Good.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been playing Killer Queen.
Oh, nice.
Quite a bit. But I went to playing the arcade version. I went to Cidercade with some friends with the birthday party. Have you all been to Cidercade yet? Know what it is in Austin?
I haven't. I know what it is, but I haven't been there.
I don't even know what it is.
It's in an old Joe's Crab Shack. It's clearly an old Joe's Crab Shack. It's got the same
remodel.
Still smells like seafood.
It's got
I haven't
the same
been there
building.
since I was like 7. I love Joe's Crab Shack. I loved it.
Oh man, I couldn't stop laughing going in because you know when you drive by like a dentist office and it's clearly an old Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Joe's Crab Shack is where you want to go if you want Red Lobster, but you want it to be kind of edgy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Shout out to Amanda Bird, a listener of the podcast. She loves Joe's Crab Shack. But the Cidercade is great. And it's $15. It's in Austin. I think there's one in Dallas too. It's $15 and all the arcade games are free to play. They have some great machines. So like Killer Queen, which is normally at pinballs in Austin, it's usually like $2 to play.
Right.
But having it free to play, and they have 4 machines, like two setups,
2 sets of Killer Queen.
Yeah. And
that's awesome.
It was incredible. But it was also cool to see other people play Killer Queen. I feel like Killer Queen is a game we talk about in this podcast quite a bit. But to see the games were always busy, there was always full, every single time. And then I was mentioning it to people and talking about video games and Switch, and I was like, "Hey, did you know Killer Queen is on Nintendo Switch?" And they're like, "I had no idea. It's totally new to me." So looking forward to playing Killer Queen Black with some of those friends, and that I met at Cidercade. It was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't like to talk about upcoming shows too much, but if you are a fan of Killer Queen, all we'll say is stay tuned.
Tease.
But yeah, that's awesome. I'll need to check out Cidercade soon. I've been hearing lots of great things about it, and I love Killer Queen on Switch is awesome. But like playing it in person in an arcade is like such a palpable experience.
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
It is a much more different experience. Like I totally forget the new mechanics they added into Killer Queen Black.
Yeah, it's a lot simpler, but I think it's like better that it's simpler in that environment, right?
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, I'll go next. As I alluded to earlier, I've been playing some of Super Bomberman R online, which I love. It's great. It's definitely got some issues. But before I get to those, just it's a great. I love Bomberman. I've always loved Bomberman. I think Bomberman is a great franchise and a very simple gameplay loop. Very easy to pick up and play. This is a battle royale version. It's got 64 players that you play against. It's entirely free to play and it's cross-platform. So by default, that setting is turned on. So you never really have trouble finding anybody to play with. The way the battle royale system works is actually really cool. Like there's all these different rooms, like Bomberman rooms that you start in. You start with just you and 3 other people, but then as the game progresses and more people die, more of those rooms get blocked off and you have to move to the rooms that are not going to be destroyed. So that kind of funnels everybody into the same space that you play on.
The Fortnite or like
kind of similar. It's like a mix of like the closing circle in Fortnite and something like Tetris 99, where you have all the different screens and you're kind of deciding which one to go to, right? So it actually works really well. My major gripe with the game is that unlike Pac-Man 99, Mario 35, or Tetris 99, the games take quite a long time to load. And I'm saying like, usually I'd say like on average, like 3 to 5 minutes between matches. And that's just, it's finding people and then picking characters and then loading everything. It's just kind of slow. And I think maybe some of that has to do with the fact that it's all cross-platform, or there's just more to load in than in those other games. So hopefully that's something that they can fix with some support down the road and get those games to come up quicker. Because
they've acknowledged it.
They have. Okay, that's good. Because
Konami, they put out a post on Friday about it.
Okay,
they
that's
said
good.
That they're going to deploy a hot fix as soon as possible or something like that.
That's excellent to hear, because that's the one thing that keeps me from going back to it. Those other battle royales are so addictive because you just jump right back into another one. And so I really love that, because, you know, if you suck at the game, you could be playing for like 20 seconds and then fucking you're out, and then you just have to wait like 5 to 8 minutes to start again. So
I keep hearing that, and I did see something. Again, it was on Friday, so we'll see how fast they can actually make a change, but hopefully that also doesn't kill off, because everybody's talking about how bad the loading times are, and maybe that's gonna make people not want to play even if they fix it, you know.
I mean, ultimately though, this game is free, and if you're okay with that and you can have something to look at on your phone while you're waiting for games to load, it's a really great experience. I really recommend that game. I'm having a great time with it. Other than that, I've been playing a lot more Mario Galaxy. I'm about like 60 stars in right now. Just having a great time. I haven't played that game since it came out for the Wii, so I'm really enjoying that again. And then the last game I've been playing is Magical Drop 2, which was added to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo Switch Online app that comes with your subscription. And Magical Drop 2 is great. It just adds to the wonderful kind of Japanese puzzle games that are in the Super Nintendo app. This is an interesting case. This game was localized a long time ago, but never had a localized release. So they've been just kind of sitting on this translation of the game for a long time. So this is actually a unique version of the game that has not been available before now. It's almost kind of like a Star Fox 2 sort of situation, or maybe more rather like the Fire Emblem that they translated recently. But either way, it's really fun. It's essentially a match 3 puzzle game where the bubbles come down and you have to like line up 3 in a row in order to clear them. But the really fun thing about this game is you can grab as many of the same color as you want. So you can be really strategic about where you stick the bubbles to pop them. And just the way that it works is really satisfying. And once you get the mechanics down, the loop is really fun. And I imagine this would be a lot of fun to play with other people as well. So
that sounds really fun.
Yeah,
that does sound really fun.
If you're sick of me begging people to play Panel de Palm with me, well, I'm going to start begging people to play Magical Drop 2 with me, because it's a lot of fun to play online. So that's pretty much what I've been playing. A talking sock. What have you been playing these days other than ARMS?
You know, I actually have been playing quite a few of the puzzles, the puzzle games they have on SNES, and NES too. I like Wario's Woods a lot.
Yeah,
and Panel de Pon, of course. I come back to that one frequently. We'll have to try Magical Drop 2. But other than that, I've actually been playing a lot of F-Zero GX.
Hell yeah, me too.
Normally I play it somewhere else, but I recently got it on eBay, the physical GameCube copy.
Nice.
I don't want to say how much I paid for it, but I got it. and I've sort of like been falling in love with it all over again. Like, it's been a while. It's very, and I can actually, I know Nintendo is so stupid about F-Zero and a lot of their IPs, but I feel like there's an appeal to it that actually would strike true with like Dark Souls fans.
Yeah.
Just in the sense that like learning it and getting good at it just feels so gosh darn good that like, you could build communities around that and and such.
Yeah, I love that game so much. And I liked what you brought up earlier about the progression system in that game and the way that you kind of unlock stuff as you go. And even in the story mode, it just makes the game really satisfying to play over and over again because you're going to be fucking up so much that it like kind of still rewards you even as you're like getting through it incrementally. It's a great game.
Yeah. Right before we started recording, I finished the chapter 3 mission in the story mode, the one where Silver Nelson like puts you in a jester mask and makes you race through the whatever it was, the casino course. And I've been stuck on it for days, just playing it when I can, because it's so precise. You can't miss a single boost pad.
Yeah.
You can't miss a single jump. And you've got to time it out perfectly because I get second so often, but you have to get first or else you fail. So, like, when I finally did it, I was just like, oh, yes. You know?
Very satisfying. Yeah, man. Well, you play a lot of F-Zero GX and a lot of Panel de Pon. We should definitely be playing some games online, I think.
Oh, hells yeah.
I'll hit you up.
All right. Well, then I think that does it for this episode. Thanks so much to A Talking Sock. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, I am PDYX.
Hey, I'm on Twitter, Matthew, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Mr. Sock? Where can people find you online?
Well, I'm on YouTube. That's A Talking Sock with, spaces, just sounds the way it's spelled. And on Twitter, my @ is @SockTalking, no spaces. But I don't know why. I think I entered my name as like first name Talking, last name Sock.
But you can't put commas in a handle, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's about the extent of my online presence at the moment. I've also got like a Patreon, but it's whatever.
Check out the Patreon if you want to support the Sock and his endeavors. Also, if you want hot F-Zero GX takes, follow A Talking Sock on Twitter. Some good ones of those on there. If you'd like to follow our show at social media, of course, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter. We are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We've got our Discord group and our Facebook group, both of which are very active communities, both of which will have links in the description of this episode. So be sure you join those if you enjoy the show and want to talk to some other people that have similar interests as you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this episode on ARMS. Thanks once more to A Talking Sock. I think we fucking nailed the puppet guest for the first time. I think this is a sign of things to come. We'll be having many more puppets in the future.
Highly honored to be the inaugural one.
Yeah, absolutely. You did an excellent job. Thanks so much for doing it. And then we'll be back next week. Next week, I do believe, is our pre-E3 show, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's safe. I think we're safe to say that next week will be our E3 predictions episode. So very much excited.
And we're not talking about the Nintendo Switch Pro at all.
We'll fucking see about that, won't we? It might be a two-parter, depending on what information we get in this upcoming week. But either way, I'm very excited to finally. We've been kind of like putting off a lot of E3 speculation until we could do a full episode on it. So I'm really excited to just get back into that zone of things and nerd out about what might be coming out at E3 this year. So make sure you tune in next week. We'll be talking all about that. And then, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we love you very much. Go out there and live your lives. The world's opening back up. Lots of stuff is changing. We're all doing our best. We're all being responsible and getting vaccinated. So let's try to enjoy the summer as best we can. Let's open this goddamn world back up. Let's try to, let's hug our grandparents. We can do that once again.
Yeah.
Let's enter this new world with a newfound empathy for one another and a newfound kindness in our heart as we move into the stellar sphere together as a species. We love you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.